Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're super excited to launch this new issue of the Homeschool Quest magazine. It is issue 6, and we're focusing all on nature schooling. That is going outside, taking your school outside, and incorporating nature into your homeschool. So if you want to craft a love for learning and appreciation for nature this spring and summer, this issue of the magazine features more articles than ever before, packed with tips and resources to get your kids outside. It is the perfect time to foster a love for learning in your children while nurturing an appreciation for nature. Spring and summer offer an abundance of opportunities to explore the great outdoors, from hiking trails to botanical gardens to sparking curiosity and wonder in young minds. You can even just go in your backyard, and there's a lot of opportunities for you to find. So let's gear up for adventure and immerse your family in a world of exploration and discovery that will leave lasting memories filled with joy and learning. Today I have joining me Tina from Big Easy Homeschooling Mom, Lauren from Salt and Lightspeed, Katie from Katie's Homeschool Cottage, and Britt Young from, I think it's the Roost on
At Wolf Pine, yep.
at Wolf Pine. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and I really am looking forward to hearing your tips and tricks on incorporating more nature schooling into your homeschool. In this magazine, you are going to find a lot of tips from our community on getting your kids outdoors, different activities that you can do, and more. So let's actually go ahead and take a look at the magazine. Actually view it online or download it, and it is perfectly sized for your phone or tablet. We have a lot in this issue. We actually had to add a longer table of contents. So we have 5 ways to enjoy nature in the city, which is a big request, how to start a nature-based homeschool group, nature journaling for multiple ages, outdoor games to boost nature learning, a tiny perfect things walk, the power of observation with nature schooling, math in the wild, a simple approach to health education, and a homeschool success story, as well as a guide to pressing flowers. So we have a lot of great information in this issue, and I absolutely love the design. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, My Homeschool Village. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring us, and thank you to all of our article contributors and advertisers who have made this possible. You guys are awesome. So we have so much in this issue, and we have nature learning tips and outside schooling tips, like I said, throughout this issue. I absolutely love the watercolor and really pressed nature design for this issue. And I get to brag about that because I wasn't the one who did it. That would be Janet and Jasmine. So whether you guys are looking for things to get in the mail that are exciting to learn about geography and history, books about the Old West. There is so many resources in here that you are going to really enjoy. There really is something for all of the And I think this issue may be our longest one yet. I do know that we had to do a lot of extra compression so that it is only 22 megabytes for you guys to download. It is a very small size for the value that is in it. I love this pressing flower guide with the different flowers in the background. And this is our resource guide. So this has a bunch of free and affordable resources that are super easy for you to find. It has all the prices and whether it's a free download or not. And I have to say that this is such a great combination of resources. We've got everything from science club to unit studies to summer bucket list to counseling network, Spanish bingo, coloring pages, planners, all kinds of really neat stuff in this issue. So let's talk about our tips for incorporating nature schooling into our homeschool. So Tina, would you like to go first?
Sure. Um, I was excited when you asked me to do this, and I thought, oh, I'm not qualified in this area of homeschooling. However, in doing some research and reflection, I thought I'm doing some of this already with my daughter. So it was kind of cool. We live in New Orleans area, which is like a fishbowl. In my backyard, I have a canal, and we have all kinds of ducks and geese, and we have turtles and just a whole bunch, mosquitoes, all that stuff that comes along with the water. So, we have a lot of birds. So, we're constantly outside, observing. Um, my daughter likes art, so she draws a lot. So, we can incorporate all, little things like this into what we're already doing. Um, Nature journals. I mean, we can actually, for nature schooling, it incorporates all of the core subjects as well as some electives. There's some writing, there's observation, you got your five senses, science lessons. There's so many science lessons in outdoors. Just sightseeing. You can measure the length of flowers, plants. There's just so many things you can do outside. So it's kind of cool to see that I was incorporating some of that into what we already do, but not really cognizant that I was doing that. So it was kind of cool to for us to realize that we were doing that already.
Yeah, using what you have around you to be able to become more observant and really incorporating the five senses, I agree with, especially when you're doing writing and nature journaling. I think that that's something that is really important. So Robin Michelle Harris said that she has a plant journal that they do daily to make sure that they get outside. So it's a blank sketchbook that they do use pencil and watercolor in, and they add a date, a title, and it's really something super special for their family. So Lauren, would you like to go ahead and add your tips for adding more nature into your homeschool?
Sure. So when I was writing my article for the magazine, I was feeling a little bit philosophical, so bear with me. When I started homeschooling, I kind of viewed nature as an additional subject to learn. So there was, reading and writing and math and whatever, and then there's nature. And I feel like I've shifted that focus a little bit. I've shifted how I think about nature. It's not, I mean, it is kind of another subject, like you can learn about nature, but it also is kind of the foundation of all of the subjects in a way. I'm an engineer. My whole shtick, my whole thing is coding, and so I've been thinking about inventions and engineering marvels, and I've realized that people aren't really inventors, they're kind of reinventors. If there's anything that a human has invented, it's kind of just copying something that was already in nature. So you have the guy who was hiking and got those little cockleburrs kind of stuck to his pants and was picking them out, and he invented Velcro. I mean, what is Velcro but a little cocklebur thing? Like the cat's eyes, you have that story of this guy cruising down the dark lanes of England, and he almost drove off a cliff, but these cat's eyes reflected, shone back at him, and he realized that wasn't the road actually turned, and he needs to turn. And then he invented cat's eyes, the little reflectors that are in our roads. There's a guy who studied termite mounds and made an energy efficient building based on termite mounds. But it's not even like the obvious simple steps that we think of, like artificial intelligence uses technology called like artificial neural networks. It's a crazy engineering coding marvel about how different systems interact. But artificial neural networks, even in the name, is based on neural networks. They're just artificial versions of neural networks, which are in each of our brains. Like, that's how our brains work. You know, everything, even the most complicated technology, is just founded on something that's already found in nature, which made me rethink how I approach nature. It's a place you can learn about nature, but you can just learn from and be inspired by nature with no real end game as well. It's not like you go out and have to figure out how many rings are in a tree and what that means. That's cool. There's a place for that. But just going out into nature and learning to observe, like you talked about, Tina, learning to observe is so important. That helps us see what's around us. And then giving your kids space to just brain dump, you see the little helicopter things. That's all Leonardo da Vinci did. He saw those little helicopter things, and he invented a helicopter. They never made it, but based on the little helicopter things, that's what the best inventors have always done. And so for me, it took a lot of pressure. I don't have to have the perfect curriculum. I don't have to have a game plan. It's just go and let your kids soak it up. And I've kind of thought about it like how much would you pay to let your kid walk around Leonardo da Vinci's workshop? How much would you pay if you could actually let them walk around and poke and do stuff in Michelangelo's studio? Like, how much would you pay for that? I would pay well, I don't have that much, but I would pay what I had to be able to do that. And I think if we always kind of get stuck on needing to learn a thing, it's kind of like sending them into Leonardo da Vinci's workshop and focusing on like the nails and the floorboards, It's just let them roam, let them soak it up. And I'm a Christian myself, and so I think about going into nature like going into God's workshop. That's the ultimate workshop. I mean, who better to learn from? So there's my philosophical advice.
I love that. I love that perspective. So Krista Todd says that in the warmer months, she spends as much time outside as possible, even if that means bringing classwork outside. They help her kids help her in the garden and help their dad with yard work. They also help with animals year round and each have a specific job with a specific animal to really help them to be able to develop skills and to get them outside. So Katie, please share your tips for incorporating more nature into your homeschool.
Well, I love the different perspectives everybody has. My background was as an English teacher. I started out before homeschooling, and my guys are now graduated from college and have jobs. But it was a necessity for us to be outside. We had to get the wiggles out. And so being out in nature was part of our schooling. And we looked at it as an adventure, and we would try to find treasures. And we would go for nature hikes, or we called them hikes, but they were really kind of just walks. And we always had a little backpack filled with supplies for our adventure. And we would look for whatever treasures we could find. And that might include just leaves or bird feathers or animal tracks. And that would be a springboard for discussions and exploration and learning. One of my children was a hesitant writer, and a way to get him to start writing, as Tina had mentioned, was we had a nature journal, and he would just write a word or a phrase about what he found. And that was actually how I started getting him to put pencil to paper, because before that he was terrified by the idea. And just taking those small steps really helped him. And it just became second nature for us to go outside and just look and observe, use those observation skills. I wish I had talked to Lauren during my homeschooling days, because that whole engineering background would have opened up a whole new window. Yeah, so it just became as second nature for us to include it in our homeschooling.
Thank you for sharing, Katie. So, Britt, what are your tips for adding more nature schooling into your homeschool?
Well, those that don't know me, I live in Maine and I have an organic wild blueberry farm. So my 4 children don't have a choice but to be in nature year round, even when the weather is brutal here. So, and again, what Katie said, I have a daughter and then 3 boys in a row. So getting the wiggles out, getting outside is sometimes the only way for all of us to survive the day. So we get outside as much as possible. And I always think back to like when I had my first baby and we'd be walking down the road and you're teaching them to be observant, and it's almost like an I spy. And then I remember we started this when she was little, and we'd say, "Oh, do you see Mr. Squirrel? I wonder what Mr. Squirrel is thinking. Where do you think he lives? What do you think he does all day?" And then that's carried on through now 13 years later. We still do that. We still talk about Mr. Squirrel, and we talk about all the other animals in the plants. And as organic farmers, we have to be very observant in general because we don't use the conventional ways of farming. So we have to be observant. And a lot of that is observing but hands off, and we have to see how whether nature can take control of a situation or if we have to step in. And so I think I've learned myself even a lot of patience. I know that our children feel more free outside. They, even though they have nature surrounding them all the time, the door opens and they go outside screaming like they've never been outside before. And so I think that we all just have a weight lifted off of us, especially if you live in a cold climate or maybe a really hot climate. Just getting that break and getting that mental break for everybody is really important. But back to what Lauren said about just letting them roam, I've talked to so many parents that feel like I have to have a game plan. I have to have an activity planned, or we have to have little gadgets and stuff. And I'm always like, I'm a type A personality, and I used to feel that way too. But what I think having 4 kids has taught me is that I can't always have a plan. And really, sometimes they have the best ideas if we just take a step back. Like, you have all the time in the world and just let them decide and guide the learning, and you'll be so amazed with what comes of each day. Really, they continuously surprise me.
I love that. So I would love to hear what you guys feel are the benefits of doing school outside. So Tina, do you want to start?
Sure. I think to piggy Lauren said, it's God's world, and we have that opportunity to marvel over what he has made for us. So I think, first of all, you're getting your kid outside, you're getting them active, so you're going to get some physical education in there, some exercise, if they're walking, doing hiking. And I think also being outside too, especially in good conditions, it enhances your mental health and well-being. You're getting fresh air. You're able, like I said, your senses know what they're doing. You're doing observation. I think just maybe we don't realize it, but it does affect our mental health. And I think too, being outside, it enhances learning and also brings out creativity that maybe we don't see in the inside. They can get out there, see something that they really like, a bird or what have you, and that kid prompt them to want to draw, want to write about it, want to discuss it. I just think there's so many opportunities if you incorporate some nature schooling into your homeschooling, that you'll see your kids, like Britt said, just let them go at it and be creative. And I think you'll marvel at what you'll see as far as productivity from your kids.
And what would you say, Lauren, is the benefits of doing school outside? This can be nature schooling or just doing classwork outside. Either one.
I think that it's just so inspirational. And so it sounds like you all have different things that you're good at, and nature can be a medium for communicating to those things to your kids. So unlike you lovely ladies, I am pretty not great at writing and the English language sort of stuff. So I am not great at teaching that through nature, but I can teach even like coding through nature. I look at how a tree grows, and it uses basically a recursive algorithm to grow, and that's pretty common in coding. looking at ants and bees doing different search patterns. There's a depth first search, breadth first search. Like, I know how to connect my passion to nature because I know about my passion. And so, and whatever it is that you love, that you're great at, you can communicate that to your kids using nature as inspiration. I mean, I don't think any subject's off the table. Like, I'm teaching coding with trees, for heaven's sakes. Like, and it's not because I'm like amazing. It's just because it's my passion. And nature, again, I believe is like the inspiration for everything. And so you can find your passion and communicate it to your kids through nature. And I think that's just a different way to teach. You're thinking, we're all in homeschooling for different reasons, but I think one of the benefits is seeing your kids be able to learn subjects in non-traditional ways is a big draw for a lot of us. And so I love the ability to teach my kids things inside. I love the ability to teach them outside by having them play in dirt. I love the ability to teach them, have one of my friends, who's brilliant at something, be able to teach my kid, and they get different learning styles and different ways to express themselves. They can run around and learn something, or they can write and learn something. And that's just, nature just adds such a rich dimension to that. So I don't know, for me, that's a big thing, getting out their energy. Goodness gracious. It is like they've never seen nature before every time you open the door, right?
Yep.
I had another brilliant thing to say, I'm sure, but I forgot what it was. So I might throw out my other comment later when we come back.
So, Katie, what do you feel are the benefits of doing more school outside?
Well, part of mine is doing the whole nature study outside, though, too. The keen observation skills, attention to detail, developing a natural enthusiasm for learning, a curious mind, being able to really ask questions. I think you can really see that happening the more your children interact with nature. And kind of using a segue from Lauren, with my English background, the written word is something that I greatly enjoy, and I want to share that with my kids. And so I tied poetry into nature because a lot of poets use nature as their inspiration and their subject matter. And it was pretty easy to tie that in for me. I mean, you look at Walt Whitman and talking about daffodils dancing in the breeze, and there's so many different literary elements that are described in there. So it was easy to tie that in and just enjoy nature through the eyes of poets and experiencing nature through, those words and being able to visualize it. So I think that, as Lauren said, there's different ways you can capture the learning just from different facets in nature.
I totally agree. I would say, as a homeschool graduate, some of the benefits that I remember is, and this is like things that I remember and then later figured out the reason for. So I remember going outside whenever I would feel stuck on schoolwork and feeling refreshed and inspired. The color green, as it turns out, actually produces the chemicals in your brain to actually inspire you and refresh you and encourage creativity. The fresh air, being inside for long periods of time, taking a break from the space where you're stressed. For me, it was always math. I would get done with the first side of the worksheet, flip it over. I would be checked out officially. Go for a walk, come back. I could tackle the second side of the math worksheet. Because being able to take a break from the space where you're stressed, it helps your brain to actually reset instead of kind of spiraling. Being able to connect with and be able to play in the dirt and the mud and things like that actually helps calm your nervous system. There's, you're getting vitamin D, which is actually, I think, really important, especially for a bunch of kids in my family who were a little bit more geeky on the computer all the time. So whenever it was warm, we were outside. And one of the fun things that we did kind of organically was we would play farmer's market. because again, we were kids that grew up in a marketing agency, so we would all make our pretend business. You know, one person made salads, another person made dyes, another person made walking sticks, and we would all trade different things and come up with whatever currency. And so we were actually practicing all of these things that we had learned throughout the day. So whether that was like we were practicing money, so we came up with currency and decided how much everything was worth. And so it was a lot of fun to be able to play outside and kind of practice some of these skills that we had been learning. And so I would really encourage you guys to see if your kids would be interested in playing farmers market, because it was a lot of fun. And I remember many summers spent playing with my siblings with that. And I think part of that is letting your kids be bored, because they'll come up with crazy stuff to be able to be entertained. So,
True.
Britt, I would love to
That's true.
what you feel are the key benefits of doing school outside.
Well, I love everyone else's opinions on that, and I agree fully. Back to what you were saying about the farmers market, I was going to say, if you were to ask any of my children their most favorite memories, it's always outside. It's without a doubt. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be the most simple thing, like picking a bouquet of flowers for their great grandmother, or it could be something really spectacular, like a beach trip for them. But it's all about the memories, and I feel like even for myself, even if it's like learning to ride a bike for the first time, there's something so special about being outside. And back to the farmers market thing, one of the things my children do all summer long and even all year round is they learned bartering from actually Schoolhouse Rock, the barter song. And so they actually, when we take walks, we have a dirt road and they collect rocks. And there's like the coveted white rock, and then there's the shiny, sparkly Maine granite rocks. And so they'll be like toting back shirt loads that are stained now of rocks. And they come back and they like dump them all out on their rock display. And then that's their shop. But they learn to barter. And so they'll barter beautiful leaves in the fall, or it's like, dandelions this time of year. So I would say, and again, I had nothing to do with that. Yes, I bought the DVDs and I played Schoolhouse Rock for them in the car ride, but they took it from there. And I love it now. I love if I'm mowing the lawn and I'm driving around or taking care of the chickens, I look over and I can hear them talking, and they're learning these new tactics and different ways to get what they want. And I think it's fantastic. And it goes back on that farmer's market idea. So I would say it's all about the memories, just getting them outside, even if it's a bad day or if it's a rainy day or frost, snow, it's still some of their best memories ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about how to keep kids engaged in learning outside. So Carmen Connor said that she recently started composting, and her 4-year-old loves it, which makes worms. What's not to love as a 4-year-old? He enjoys caring for them by feeding them and making sure that they have all the bedding that they need. And she uses it as an opportunity to explain the importance of worms and bugs in our ecosystem and how we can utilize them to create a sustainable garden. Mariah Smithy says that she does nature walks and they love catching bugs. I think one of my favorite memories having to do with bugs was my mom actually went to the garden store and bought one of those packets of ladybugs. And so we had hundreds and hundreds of ladybugs in our yard for years and years. And so we would always capture them and make them little like homes and things like that. And it was so much fun. She incorporates sandbox and mud play. The dirtier they are, the happier they are. And then a kiddie pool for water and a ball pit balls with a slide into it. So really to have a lot of fun and make it so that they're doing lots of different things. So what would you guys say? What kind of activities keep your kids engaged in playing outside and learning?
Well, I can
You want
start
me to
with
go?
some ideas that we did.
You go for it. I'll go after you.
Well, my guys, we were mostly in wooded areas, but we always had some kind of water somewhere. And you could always find them in the water. So they usually had little nets or they had buckets, and they were always digging things up and looking at them and collecting them. And I think that, I always had to make sure to empty the pockets whenever we did laundry. So we would do a lot of hands-on things, from maybe throwing breadcrumbs into a pond where, if you've ever done that, where there's crappie in the pond or lake, I mean, the crappie just swarm. And they found that just extremely fascinated. They'd catch one, they'd look at it, release it. We used to do pond scum scoops and just explore the pond scum and stick it under a microscope. So any kind of like real hands-on exploration, and the messier the better, and the more gross the better. We did the owl pellets where we dissected them and talked about the food chains. We did the butterflies and put them in they did their chrysalis, and the caterpillar came out as a butterfly. So anything that was very like close up and hands on would give us an opportunity to answer the questions of why this and why that and what makes this happen. So my tip would be just try to really make it hands on.
Lauren, you were going to say something next.
Yeah, I had a chuckle when you were talking about ladybugs, because we have a foreign exchange student living with us right now who's from Bolivia, and she's terrified of ladybugs. So that's like her worst nightmare. Oh, I have someone joining me. You have to be very quiet right now. Okay? I just had to throw out there that I have an answer to that question specifically, but when I was listening to Katie and Britt talk, I remembered kind of the second part of my point from earlier, and that I can teach my one subject through nature because that's what I know about. But listening to Katie talk about teaching poetry, and Britt, you're talking about bartering, and that's really just such a wonderful thing about nature, is that I know how to teach what I know how to teach, but nature teaches so much more. And so working on those observation skills, like Tina keeps saying, is really just teaching kids how to learn from nature. And my daughter will go out, and maybe she's more poetically minded than I am, and maybe if she doesn't know the forms of poetry, she'll see those daffodils dancing in the breeze, and she'll have those epiphanies that I would never have been able to teach her inside. And I think the answer to your most recent question helps the kids kind of tap into that, getting them engaged with nature, and giving them the autonomy to go out themselves and learn from it. I think that's the greatest thing we can do, is give kids ownership and autonomy. So whether that's, I've given my kids a half of a raised bed each to grow whatever they wanted in. And they have the ownership of that, and they're so excited, more excited than if I were doing it and they were watching, like infinitely more excited. My daughter's growing strawberries, and she's just, just chomping at the bit to be a part of nature in a way that she can exert her own self and her own character onto, nature. Just giving her the freedom to do that is such a wonderful thing. I mean, how we all love that ownership. And autonomy is a big one as well, giving them the nets so that they can go dig around in the creek that you were talking about. Like, the tools that we give them, I think, should allow them to exert, poke their fingers farther into nature, and a microscope or magnifying glasses that allow them to observe better, fishing poles that allow them to learn how to fish, more so than a tool that would necessarily just focus on, I don't know, teaching a thing. Giving them something that helps them be more a part of nature, and giving them ownership so that they feel really, really inspired to be part of nature would be how I would answer your question.
Okay, Tina or Britt, do you want to share some ways that you can get engaged in nature? I think
Sure,
Tina,
I can go.
I was going to say,
go ahead, Tina.
Go ahead, Britt. Okay. We do gardening. So we do gardening outside as well as growing out here in the humidity in Louisiana. Grow sunflowers. So we're doing some inside as well as outside. Other hands-on activity, I think somebody had mentioned collecting flowers, pressing flowers. I think that was also in the magazine as well. That's something that we like to do. I think for the younger ones, school child, so we don't do as much as the game scavenger hunts or bingos or stuff like that. We do hands-on scientific experiments. We can do weather observations, plant experiments. You can observe animal behavior, ducks, the geese, the turtles. I just think getting them outside and, away from the screens for a bit of their homeschooling day just opens up a world of creativity that you wouldn't have noticed if there was a TV or watching a video or in their computer screen. Getting them outside away from for a couple of days, it just opens up a whole creativity. There's very artistic, um, and something that she'll see outside, it'll drive her to want to draw that, or like I said, preserving flowers and pressing flowers and just do some art crafts out of stuff that you collect. It just opens up a whole new avenue for them to learn about the world that we live in.
I totally agree, Tina. So, Britt, you had some ideas you wanted to share.
Sure. I was going to say back on the gardening part, we again organically farm here, and so there's often failure, especially if the weather is terrible. Last year we had a really rainy season, but I love giving my kids a crop to grow as well, something that they choose, whether it's flowers. Or last year my daughter was dead set on growing the best corn, and we had the rainiest year I think we've had in years, and it failed. And from that failure, at first she was really defeated, and she's like, I don't know if I ever want to grow corn again. And like we all feel that way with anything in life. But I remember saying, well, like, let's look into it. Like, give it a break, think about it over the winter. And then I'm really big on the scatter method of just leaving books and tools and things around the home. So she came across our farm anatomy book, and in it was a section about growing corn. And so she came to me and she said, okay, I think I need to have companion plants that I didn't have. I think I need to change the soil and have a few amendments. How could I get nitrogen into the soil? What do we need? And so I think that sometimes, like, from failure has come some of my kids' best experiences. And so I always say, again, like, giving them that freedom and then allowing them to have more of a hands-on role can lead to some pretty exciting things. So I don't know how this year will go, but we'll find out soon.
Some of the other ideas that people have is bird watching. It's a wonderful way to do a nature study. You can do it inside with a feeding station, or even just at a local park while you're on a walk. One of my fondest memories is actually a bird made a nest right outside our living room window. And at this point in time, I did not like doing essays, even though now, of course, I'm a professional copywriter who basically does that all day. At this point, I was like, nope, I don't like nonfiction, but I loved birds. So my mom was like, okay, well, you better keep like a journal of what the birds are doing every day. And so I was like, every day I was there for hours at a time, observing and writing down, like, okay, they brought some twigs in to make the nest, and then like each stage as they were going from having eggs and hatching and then learning to fly. And I probably did more essay writing that year than I ever had done before. And then from there, it wasn't so scary to do. So if you can tap into their passion and find something that they're really interested about, you can weave in all these other subjects, whether that's documentaries or reading different books, like you were mentioning, Britt, writing, drawing. All of these different things can be kind of woven into things that they find that they're passionate about or interested in, that really hold their interest. Sarah Elkins mentioned that she's always trying to learn new facts and species herself. So when she spots one, she can point it out and be really excited about it and genuinely enthusiastic about it, and like share about it. Like, look, that's mullein. It's medicinal. You can use it to express mucus. It's an anti-inflammatory. You can drink it as a tea. It's also called velvet plant. You can feel how soft the leaves are. And so really encouraging kids to get excited about nature and to understand that there's more than just pretty flowers and things like that, but that there's things going on. And to really, and I think you can really take that over when you're talking about, ecosystems, or just really encouraging kids to get up close with nature. I would say we kind of covered a lot of these different questions that I had for like what to keep your kids fascinated and how to really engage them with nature. Some of the other ideas that people had was Erica Lee mentioned that they have a creek, so they like to wade in the creek and look for rocks, pan for gold, make drawings using berries. And in the wintertime, they do ice globes and ice ornaments and igloos. Um, and there's all kinds of things that you can do in nature to learn. And part of that goes with getting nature study journals and things like that to make it easier for you. Because part of the really great thing about learning in the summer, you can just send the kids outside with a magnifying glass and a butterfly net and a bingo sheet. And you don't have to worry about it. You can take a break, you can take a load off, and they're going to come back super energized and excited about schooling again. So I really encourage you guys all this summer to send your kids outside, even if that's just the front yard. There's still going to be all kinds of things that they can do and all kinds of games that they can play. They're going to be learning, especially if you provide them with the tools to be able to observe. And you can go on walks to local parks, and you don't have to do a field trip to the botanical garden or to the aquarium or all these different places. You can just go for a walk in your local neighborhood and observe with your kids. So if you guys want to get more resources about nature studies, we do have a really awesome Pinterest board. Thank you, Tina, for adding a bunch of pins to that. If you guys want to go ahead, I went ahead and put a link in the comments. You guys can go and get that and find a bunch of really awesome resources that are free and affordable. And I would love for everyone to share a resource in the comments. It could be a nature resource or an affordable resource so that people can learn a little bit more about you and what you guys offer for the homeschooling community. So if everyone wants to go and share that in the comments, I'm going to go ahead and share a link to the magazine where everyone can download it. Okay, and so Britt, tell us a little bit about your backyard chicken study. I know that was a really popular one in the group.
It is, yeah. We created that as a family because we raised chickens here on our farm, and it was something that I wanted to know everything about it. I had gone from babies to chickens, and so I wanted the kids to know the life cycle of chicks and to know their behaviors. One of the fun parts of it, it's 7 lessons and it's 35 pages, but you can move at your own pace. It's for kindergarten to 5th grade. The kids helped me create it, and back to our kids are really involved in our farm business, and they also help me create homeschool products. So they're a part of creating this as well. And so every time we have a sale, there's like a roar of applause and everybody's cheering. And so anyway, but it's really fun because one of the things that we loved was observing our chickens, especially listening to music. And so we'll actually link you to a video of our chickens listening to classical music. And that was now like we'll play all kinds of music for our chickens, but as part of the lesson, we played classical and they all started gathering around. And it was just really cool experience to see. We enjoy it a lot, but so do our chickens. So, but yeah, it's become really popular. It covers all kinds of subjects right into one study. And again, it's really easy and kids seem to love it. So with one required book, which was big for me because I know a lot of unit studies, you can get bogged down with a lot of different options, but.
So Lauren, tell us a little bit about your Patterns in the Park nature journal.
Okay, so my family loves nature journals. We've done them before, and they've always helped inspire. I hadn't really seen one that was more engineering minded, so I tried to set about to create that. It helps your kids, like it guides them through some of the activities I talked about earlier, following bees around and seeing like how are they searching the field flower to flower? Are they searching around one spot first, or are they going out in one direction and coming back, and things like that. How trees grow, the fact that certain plants shoot out leaves in different ways, and why do they do that? Spider webs, how those are constructed, the Fibonacci spiral that's found in sunflowers and seashells and pine cones, and it kind of just looks for patterns in the park, which is why it's called Patterns in the Park. And so it helps kids observe, those really mathematical patterns that pop up in nature all over, everywhere. There are a couple spots where it kind of makes a connection, just like a little blurb. It makes a connection to coding patterns, but it's not ultimately about that. It's really about just trying to see the order, like the very clear order that shows up in nature all the time. And so, that's it. Looks at rhythmic patterns of bird calls and just teaches kids to observe those types of things, which are often harder to pick out for us. So it's got over 50 activities. I think it's for kids of any age because you can get as in depth into the observation as you want. I did some of the activities with my 4-year-old, but I've also done them with 12 years old and older. So it's just how deep you want to get into it. The prompts are fairly simple, but kids can sit there and observe to their heart's content at whatever level they want to.
So Katie, share with us about your nature study journal.
Okay, well, I want to say that your studies just sound so cool. I love the chickens and the music and the patterns. I mean, that just sounds really exciting. Well, the nature study that I have is all seasons, all 4 seasons in the year. And for each season, I have poems that go with that season about nature that you'll see in nature at that time of year. And then it goes into the different types of questions you can ask while on a walk. There's different book suggestions about that nature in that season, as well as how to do nature studies, some suggestions, activities that you can do, and extension activities if you want to really dive deep into a topic. And then it also kind of ties it into biology, physical science, chemistry. So if you really want to go deep into that topic, it gives you suggestions on how to do that as well. And then it also includes nature journal pages that you can print off, and then some ways to study actual poetry if you want to tie in a little bit of a poetic element into your nature study.
I love that. I think there's a really good variety. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow Tina, I went ahead and shared her link tree. She has a bunch of amazing social media accounts and shares a lot of great homeschool resources. So go ahead and go over there and follow her on her different platforms. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate you guys joining us to celebrate the launch of the Nature Schooling magazine and to really talk and dive deep into this subject. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we hop off?
Just have fun
I just
outside.
wanted to say that I don't have any resources that are about nature, but in doing this workshop in conjunction with the release and the launch of this magazine, it has inspired me. So I will have some things that will be upcoming. So just follow me on social media and my website. I will post some things on there.
How exciting! Thank you guys so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye!